Hi everyone, I'm JT Pilot and today I'll be making another video. This time I'm doing a 1/4 scale model airport day on my Jacksonville Fictional Model Airport. This is the 23rd airport day and this is for October of 2022 and this is the Halloween special. So, yes, the day this video is coming out is Halloween, so I'd like to say happy Halloween to everybody and hopefully you'll enjoy today. So, yes, today we got a Jacksonville Fictional Model Airport day. It's been a little while since we last done one, so. Yeah, today it'll be a jam-packed airport day. We'll have a bunch of new models. We have around 7 new models. We have some of your subscriber routes as well. So, yeah, so today's airport day, we'll be starting off all the aircraft taxiing around. Then we'll be starting off with Terminal 3 to change it up a little bit. And then we'll go over to Terminal 2. Then we'll go over to Terminal 1. So, yes, lots of models will be in today's airport day. It's a really busy day over at Jacksonville. So, yeah. So nonetheless, we'll be starting off with the very first aircraft. So starting with the first aircraft here with the beautiful Phoenix models Edelweiss Airbus A340-300. So really unique airline in Jacksonville. They have been doing fairly well, so it's great to hear. So this A340-300 will be heading out to Zurich. So really unique route and grateful to have Edelweiss in the airport dates. Alright, moving on to our next aircraft, we have the highly beautiful NG Boss JetBlue Airbus A321-300. This is the second release. This is a brand new NG September release. So this aircraft will be heading out to Grand Eagle International Airport or one for Diorama's Model Airport. So yes, yeah, really cool Instagram account. Highly recommend to follow him. So really cool route there. So yes, and we'll say this aircraft came in from New York John Kennedy. That's a pretty typical JetBlue 321 route. All right, moving on to our next aircraft. Here the Viva Airbus A320-300. That interesting Phoenix model. This is an okay model, but yes, but this aircraft will be heading out to Cancun in Mexico. He's number 3 for takeoff, by the way. Alright, moving on to our next aircraft. Here, the little tiny silver ATR-42. So, this aircraft has arrived in from, we'll do a new route for him. He has arrived in from Freeport in the Bahamas. That's a pretty cool route. And then we'll say he will be hitting, what's a good route for him? We'll send this guy out to Key West. Moving on to our next aircraft here, the highly beautiful Southwest Boeing 747-800. This is the first NG release, and this is my first ever NG model. And a lot of you didn't know that, so that's a cool fact there. So we'll say this guy has just arrived in from Baltimore and be heading out to Phoenix Sky Harbor. Moving on to our next aircraft here, the highly beautiful British Airways Airbus A350-1000. So this aircraft will be heading out to London Heathrow. So really great Gemini model. This is the second Gemini release, not the new release, but yeah, this is the second Gemini release from October of 2020. Heading on over here now, we got their next aircraft, which is the Southwest Boeing 747-700 and the Hartley with Swiss Gemini Wings, or 7855 Alpha, that great Panama's release. So we'll say this aircraft has just arrived in from Salt Lake City and be heading out to Milwaukee up in Wisconsin. Moving on to our next aircraft here, the highly beautiful Sun Country Boeing 747-800. So we'll say this aircraft has just arrived in from Minneapolis, St. Paul, and be making a return flight out there. Really cool flight there. Moving on to our next aircraft here, this Lufthansa Airbus A330-300. So that really beautiful engine line here. This is the NG second release, great model. Great flight of Lufthansa in the airport days. So this aircraft will say he'll be heading out to Frankfurt in Germany. Moving on to our next aircraft here, the highly beautiful Southwest Boeing 747-700. It was Swiss Gemini Wings in the Hartley rate. In the Hartley rate, and this is number 963 Whiskey November, or the first ARM Painted models release. So really cool model here. And yeah, so this aircraft will say he has just arrived in from Birmingham in Alabama, and we'll say he'll be heading out to New Orleans today. Really cool routes for him. Moving on to our next aircraft, we have the Spirit Airbus A321-300. That Gemini release. Hopefully, NG models release this model soon. I should say do a re-release of this model. I would definitely buy a new NG release with the updated Wi-Fi box. This Gemini model is not looking too hot, so yeah, it's just a decent model. So yeah. So this aircraft will say he is just arriving in from Chicago here and be making a return flight out there. Pretty typical Spirit route there, but that route I heard it does pretty well. Moving on to our next aircraft here, the Aeromexico Boeing 747-800. So this aircraft is just arriving from Mexico City. He'll be making a return flight out there, and he's just taxiing in from the runway. Moving on to our next aircraft here, the highly beautiful Legion Airbus A320-300. That beautiful Panama's release, that great ARM release. I really love this model. It's grateful to use this model over at Jacksonville. So we'll say this aircraft, he has just arrived in. He has just arrived in from Roanoke in Virginia, and he'll be heading out to Bloomington in Illinois. Moving on to our next aircraft here, the United Boeing 747-MAX 8. So this aircraft is just arriving from Newark maybe making a return flight out there, and that is a great United route. United has some changes in taste airport date. You'll see those later on in this video. Alright, moving on to our next aircraft. Here at the Delta Airbus A220-100. So, this aircraft has just arrived in from New York John F. Kennedy, and we're making a return flight out there. So that is a typical Delta A220 route. Nothing new over there, but really cool Gemini release. So this is the first Gemini release, the original 2018 release. Gemini has just released a third release of this, which is pretty insane. I won't be getting that model though, because I am just fine with this model. And their A220 model is just okay. I'm really waiting for NG to develop an A220 model, because that model will be far superior. Alrighty, moving on to our next model. Here, the United Boeing 757-200 in the EVA Blue livery. So, this aircraft is in the on the taxiway, which is not its typical spot, because you'll see later on in this video. So, yeah, so this aircraft is just arriving from San Francisco and will be making a return flight out there. So, that route has been upgraded back to a 757, so it's really exciting to see that. Moving on to our next aircraft here, the Air Canada Rouge Airbus A321-200. So, this aircraft is just arriving from Toronto Pearson and will be making a return flight out there. This is the original NG release. NG may do a re-release of this soon. It's been highly requested by Canadian collectors. We'll just have to see. So I've seen that. That has been requested a bunch from Canadian collectors. Alright, moving on to our next aircraft here, a Spirit Airbus A320-200. So this aircraft will say he's just riding from Atlantic City, New Jersey, and be making a return flight out there. Moving on to our next aircraft here, the Japan Airlines Boeing 787-9, that great NG model. So this aircraft will be hanging out to Tokyo and Nada. Really cool international right here, and it's grateful to see Japan Airlines over at my airport. Moving on to our next aircraft here, the American Airbus A321-200, and this will be doing a transcontinental flight out to Los Angeles. So, yeah, this engine model is the transcontinental configuration, so grateful to finally use this aircraft on the actual American A321 with chocolate transcon configuration route. So really great to use this aircraft. Alright, moving on to our next aircraft here, the Delta Airbus A350-900. So this will be doing a unique international flight out to Cape Town in South Africa, or Airplane 9ers Airport. So that's a really cool subscribe route. Grateful to use it there. So, yeah, thank you for the subscribe route, and yeah. Alright, moving on to our next aircraft here, the Delta Airbus A321-200. We'll say this aircraft is just arriving from Minneapolis, St. Paul, and we'll be making a return flight out there. And moving on to our final taxi aircraft just for now, it is the Breeze Airbus A220-300. So this aircraft is just riding in from Norfolk in Virginia, maybe heading out to San Francisco in California. So that's it for all the aircraft taxi round. Let's move on over to Terminal 3. Alright, starting off with Terminal 3 over on my Jacksonville Fictional Airport, so we'll be starting with the international section. So lighting is a little different taste over. They have a little more golden hour lighting for my ring light, just because it's Halloween, because why the heck not? So, yeah. So we'll be starting with the first aircraft. So this Cayman Boeing 737 MAX 8 will be hanging out to Grand Cayman. So it's nothing new over that route. That's a really exciting route. So next up, I heard Caribbean Airlines will be starting service over at Jacksonville. So we'll have to see about that. It's going to be a really exciting new airline to see over at Jacksonville. Alright, moving on to our next aircraft here by Air Canada Boeing 737 MAX 8. So this aircraft will be hanging out to Toronto Pearson. So so this is the he'll be hanging out to Toronto Pearson. We'll say he's arriving from Vancouver. Moving on over to our next aircraft, we have a Play Airbus A321neo. So this aircraft has just arrived from Reykjavik, Keflavik, and we're making a return flight out there. What a beautiful NG model. Moving on to our next aircraft, we have a Norse Boeing 787-9. So this aircraft will be hanging out to Berlin in Germany. Moving on to our next aircraft, we have a WestJet Boeing 737 MAX 8. So he's departing Terminal 3 for a flight out to Calgary or EQ Plains Airport. So another great YouTuber. Highly recommend check him out. Alright, so moving on to some international Wi-Fi. So moving on to our next model, here are the highly beautiful NG models KLM Boeings 777-300ER. So this aircraft will be hanging out to Amsterdam. So I might go for the new NG KLM 77-10, but I'll likely wait for a -9 release. So yes, that is a great model here, and this aircraft will be hanging out to Amsterdam. Oh, moving on to our next model. What a beautiful model, especially in this golden hour lighting. We have a Virgin Atlantic Airbus A350-1000. So this aircraft has just arrived there from London Heathrow. We'll be making a return flight out there. So really beautiful aircraft there. And yeah, so yes, we can also say this aircraft is heading out to Manchester as well, because Virgin Atlantic does have several routes over at Jacksonville. So Virgin Atlantic has just received their first A330neo. So hopefully a model company releases that, like maybe Gemini Jets or Aviation Foreigner, because I definitely get it. It'd be a beautiful model to have over at Jacksonville. I love Virgin Atlantic's livery. It's just beautiful. That's all I gotta say. So yeah. So once again, this aircraft will be hanging out to London Heathrow. Alright, moving on to our next aircraft. Here's the highly beautiful Delta Boeing 757-200. What a beautiful model. Love this model. Great NG models released. Hopefully NG models will develop a 757-300 mold soon. I'd definitely buy a Delta release of NG where they release it. So Yeah, so this Delta 757 Stranger will be heading out to Atlanta Hartsfield Jackson Airport. So typical Delta route over at Jacksonville, but yeah, that route is going strong with some 757s and some 757-200s and 300s. Moving on to our next aircraft here, the Delta Boeing 747-900ER. This aircraft will be heading out to, we'll do Salt Lake City for him, and he has just arrived in from Salt Lake City. Alright, moving on to our next aircraft here, the Delta Airbus A321neo that filed amazing engine miles release. This aircraft will be heading out to Boston Logan International Airport. Pretty typical A321neo route, so yeah. Moving on over to our next aircraft here, the Delta Boeing 747-800. So this aircraft will say he'll be heading out to Los Angeles and he'll be making and he has just arrived in there from there as well. And moving on over to our final aircraft in the section here, at Delta Connection Bombardier CRJ-900. This aircraft is operated by Endeavour Air and will be heading out to Raleigh-Durham for today's flights. That's it for Terminal 3. Let's move on over to Terminal 2. Alright, so moving on over to Terminal 2. So when we start with our first aircraft, so there's a couple of new models over here. So this Breeze Embraer ERJ-195 has just arrived in from Long Island Islip and will be making a return flight out to Windsor Locks. Moving on over to our next aircraft. Here, the JetBlue Airbus A321 shooter and the Balloon's Tail. That followed amazing new engine miles release. What a great engine model. Engine miles really killed this model. So we'll say this aircraft is just arriving from Fort Lauderdale and making a return flight out there. Alright, moving on over to our next aircraft. So this is the Legion Airbus A319 has arrived in from South Bend in Indiana. And we'll say this aircraft will be heading out to Phoenix Mesa. So that is a new Legion route, so pretty excited to see that. Moving on over to our next aircraft here, the Frontier Airbus A320neo and the Poppy the Prairie Dog livery that good Gemini just released. It's a good release. It's just okay. It's just an okay release. But really well detailed. So yeah, good effort by Gemini, at least on that effort. And the Moses, it's terrible. But anyway, so we'll say this aircraft has just arrived from Trenton in New Jersey. Pretty typical route for Frontier Airlines. And we'll say this aircraft we'll do Cancun for this aircraft. That is a new Frontier route, so really excited to see that there. Alright, moving on over to our next aircraft. So this JetBlue A320 has arrived in from Los Angeles. We'll be making a return flight out to New York John Kennedy or Southwest Flyers 345's airport. Moving on over to our next aircraft here, Spirit A320neo. This aircraft is just arriving from DFW or Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. We'll be making a return flight. Moving on over to our next aircraft here, the highly beautiful Southwest Boeing 747-800. That's a new engine miles release. And yeah, so this aircraft is just arriving from Dallas-Love and we'll say he'll be heading out to Houston Hobby in Texas. Alright, moving on over to our next aircraft here, the beautiful Southwest Maryland 1 Boeing 747-700. What a beautiful engine model. I love this model. So we'll say this aircraft has just arrived in from, we'll do a good route for him. We'll say this aircraft has just arrived in from Columbus in Ohio. He'll be heading out to Missouri Falls or MCI Aviation's airport. So yeah, so if you want a subscriber, I highly recommend filling out my subscriber form, which the link for that is in the description below. Make sure so make sure your routes are realistic for my Norfolk airport, but for Southwest Lovefield, for Southwest Lovefield, they must be Southwest aircraft, and for Jacksonville, you can use any aircraft you want. Only rule is that there must be aircraft to have in my collection I could represent your route, and I could represent somewhat realistically, so your routes must be in a range of Jacksonville, Florida, so if you're doing a Southwest 747, don't send it over to London Heathrow because I will not accept that route, so. Yeah, so just make sure your routes are somewhat realistic for doing a route to Florida. And yeah, so sorry for that being a little confusing. That's one to mention. So once again, this aircraft will be heading over to Missouri Falls or MCI Aviation's airport. Alright, moving on to some more Southwest aircraft. So this Southwest Boeing 747 MAX 8, this is the second Gemini release. We'll say this aircraft has just arrived in from Las Vegas and will be heading up to Chicago Midway. Moving on over to our next aircraft here, the highly beautiful Southwest Freedom 1 Boeing 747 that flat amazing engine miles release. What a great model here. So this aircraft, we'll say he has just arrived in. We'll say this aircraft is arriving from San Jose in California and be heading out to St. Louis or RC Miles in One's airport. So really cool subscriber out there. I'd like to thank him for submitting that subscriber out. Moving on to our final Southwest aircraft in this section here, we Southwest Boeing 747 Harley once again with Swiss Gemini winglets, that same model that was shown earlier. And yeah, so this aircraft, we'll say he has just arrived in from Pittsburgh so he has just arrived in from Pittsburgh and we'll send this aircraft over to Little Rock in Arkansas. So that's it for all the aircraft over at Terminal 2. Let's move on to some aircraft over at Terminal 1. There's some interesting new models over there. Lots of new models. So let's move on over to Terminal 1. Alright, so moving on over to Terminal 1. So start with the first aircraft. Here we have an American Eagle and Bombardier CRJ-900. This aircraft is pushing back for a flight out to Washington National and with the brand new tug from West Coast Diecast. So really cool GSA piece there, and I'm grateful to use it there. So yes, and this is a PSA flight. Moving on over to our next aircraft here, the American Boeing 747-800 with the new wing logos. That great engine model was released, and yeah. So we'll say this aircraft is just riding from Charlotte and be making a return flight out there. All right, moving on to our next model, we got a brand new model here. So this is our next new model, which is the engine model Alaska Airlines. There was A320 in the more love delivery. So this is my replacement model for the one that came broken, and this one did indeed come broken once again. It's missing a 10 this time, so at least the gear came intact, but pretty unfortunate. But Alaska Airlines will be using the A321neo temporarily for their Seattle-Tacoma service. So this aircraft will be heading to Seattle-Tacoma. So yeah, route will be downgraded to a MAX 9 soon once the Alaska A320neos are retired, which should be next year. Pretty sad, but yeah. Moving on to our next aircraft here, the American Airbus A321 in the Medal of Honor, delivering another new model here. This model did come broken. This is the fixed version. Yes, and this is not the replacement model because that model also came broken. So yes, but this is the American A321 will be heading out to, we'll do Dallas Fort Worth for him. All right, moving on to our next aircraft. So this American A319 is taxiing out Terminal 1 for a flight out to Philadelphia. Look at this beautiful model here. So moving on to our next model, which is the brand new engine models Qatar Airways Boeing 777-300 that flat amazing engine models release. This is that new September 2022 release. Engine models really nails model, great model, one of my favorite models for sure. So this aircraft will be heading out to Doha. So that's a new route over at Jacksonville and new airline. So really excited to see Qatar over at Jacksonville. So once again, this aircraft will be heading over to Doha in Qatar. So yeah. All right, moving on over to our next model here with an American Boeing 747 MAX 8. So this aircraft will be heading out to Miami. All right, moving on to our next model here with a Finnair Airbus A350-900. So that's a new flat amazing engine model. What a great model here. Love this model as well. So this aircraft will be heading out to Helsinki. So Finnair is a new airline to Jacksonville, so they'll be operating that route. So, yeah, really cool route there. I heard they'll be doing some flights for Lufthansa soon with their Eurowings Discover brand. We'll have to see about that. But, yeah, we got some unique stuff coming up for Finnair. But once again, this aircraft will be heading out to Helsinki today. All right, moving on over to our final on this airport day, which is the Gemini United Airlines Boeing 757-300. So, this is just an okay model. Not my favorite model in the world, but it's just okay. But I'm grateful to have to fly him on my airport day finally. So, yeah, and this aircraft will be heading out to Chicago here. Moving on over to our next United aircraft, you have a United Boeing 747-300 year on the Eva Blue delivery, that great engine models release. This aircraft will say you'll be heading out to Washington, Dallas. Then we got the United 747-300 ER in the Continental Gold delivery, so I included two in today's airport day, because why the heck not? And yes, so this United 747-300 year will be heading out to Los Angeles. And the final aircraft in today's airport day, which is the United Airbus A319-200, will be heading out to Houston Intercontinental. And alright, folks, so this concludes airport day today. This was the 23rd airport day, and this is the October 2022 airport day at my Jacksonville Fictional Model Airport. And yes, today was a fun, spooky airport day. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and hope you guys enjoyed the lighting in this video, that golden hour aspect. I just want to make this video just slightly different, just because it's Halloween. So so we do have some exciting content coming up for November. So there won't be a roadmap for November or a calendar for November for my content, just because I'm in school, and yes, all the dates of videos have been kept on getting pushed back. So I just want to be safe and not make a calendar with guaranteed dates. So there will be some content coming in November, I promise. But school's been extremely busy recently, and my life has been busy in life recently, like I said in some other videos. So yes. So anyways, for content-wise, so coming soon, we should have the new NG Models November releases. I'm really excited for those, and we should have a hints/predictions video for those. I'm excited for this, hoping for Illinois 1, some 47 Exchange, or in Navajo, some 47, or Delta A320, something like that. I'd be really excited to see those models be made by NG Models. This would be exciting. What else? Yes, also coming soon will be the Norfolk International Airport update. That should be coming very soon as well. And that'll be the November update. Really excited for that video. And yeah, so those are the videos that are coming in the near future. In the long term, or the rest of this year, we should have a new airport series coming up very soon. We should have the new NG Models wishlist video for all their models, and that'll be exciting video. Can't wait for that video to come out. And our next massive unboxing, which should be coming out at some point this month. It'll be a smaller unboxing, but there will be some models in it, some exciting NG models, and maybe some other models as well. We'll have to see. So Jacksonville's been growing and it's been booming. It's been doing really well. A lot of you have enjoyed this series, so I'd like to thank you all so much for the support. Yes, I'd like to also thank everybody so much for helping me reach 700 subscribers. So really exciting there. We're almost 70% of the way to getting to 1,000 subscribers, or we'll have something special happen. So that's going to be really exciting. Cannot wait to reach 1,000 subscribers. So 700 subscribers, thank you guys so much. So so lots of exciting content is coming soon, and so So that's it for this video, and I am JT Pilot. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching this video, and have a wonderful Halloween, and yeah, have a wonderful day. Bye. Moo ha ha ha.